p.m. and the executive session has been concluded. Will all participants in the executive session please state their name for the record?
Carol Harvey.
Val Carr.
Paul Sonnier.
Noel Sawyer.
John Schaefer.
Suzanne Leclerc.
Thank you. If any person who participated in the executive session believes that any substantial discussion of any matters not included in the motion to go into the executive session occurred during the executive session, or that any improper action occurred during the executive session in violation of the Open Meetings Law, I ask that you state your concerns now. Okay, hearing none, the next agenda item is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would all please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item number 3, and happy to introduce Chief DeYoung and the Shield 616 presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Today marks a pretty important day for us. We have finally outfitted all 22 officers here with the help of the City of Woodland Park's donation, as well as Reverend Gore, the Mountain View United Methodist Church. So there was a number of individuals that were involved in this, as well as a number of organizations, and I just can't express my gratitude enough. So thank you so much for getting this great equipment, and we've got a lot of excited officers here that are looking forward to getting this gear. So without further ado, Mr. Skiphead. Thank you, Chief. I appreciate it. Test 1, 2, 3. I don't know if that's on, but I talked loud enough. So,
well, thank you so much. It is an absolute honor and a privilege to be back up here, and I hope that when you guys walked in, everybody was excited by what they're seeing. Because, like Chief said, we're finishing the whole Woodland Park Police Department tonight, and everybody sees what's happening with law enforcement around the country. Everyone sees, all these different incidents happening. Everyone sees a lot of the hostility that's being directed towards law enforcement. And so, back in late 2014, our goal was to rally the local community around their officers, and what we wanted to do was to do fundraisers to help these agencies out. A lot of agencies can't afford this gear, and I can tell you, this is not just a Woodland Park issue. Just this past Sunday, we finished the whole Colorado Springs Police Department, all 683 of them, and so it's not just a small town issue. It's an issue for a vast majority of agencies around the country. And so, because of what you guys have done, and like Chief said, it's been citizens, it's been churches, it's been foundations, businesses, and even the city itself stepping up and rallying around their law enforcement, and that's what we're about. It's not just about better protecting our officers, but it's about building community and building that community between our local officers and the local community. And so, before I have the officers come up, I want everyone to take just a real quick, good look at this vest. As you can imagine and know, this obviously has a monetary value attached to it. We did a lot of fundraising to afford this gear. Oftentimes when you deal with the government, it's oftentimes the lowest bid, and I can tell you we are not a lowest bid nonprofit. And so there's definitely stuff out there that we could get that's cheaper, but we wanted to make sure that your city's best is getting the best to protect them while they're trying to protect you guys. And so it's because of all of you guys in the city, and like I said, all the other folks that participated to be able to finish off tonight. And so take a real good look, because at this moment it has a monetary value, but in just a few minutes that's going to change. Typically our presentations go about an hour, and that freaked out a whole bunch of the folks sitting up here. And I know we got a lot of items on the agenda tonight, so I am cutting it a little short. But I cannot thank you guys enough. I cannot thank the city officials enough for stepping up and becoming one with one cause, one purpose, and that's to support your local law enforcement. So I can't thank you enough from the bottom of my heart. So with that said, if I could please get the officers who are going to be receiving this gear tonight, if you would please come on up and just stand behind one of these vests. Doesn't matter which one you stand behind, we'll get you fitted out back afterwards. But obviously if you're a gold or a command staff, you know where to stand. So while they're walking up, we're going to take about 30 seconds to get some good pictures once they're in place. But I want to tell you just a quick story. When we were down in Dallas, we were doing a best presentation down there at a church, and one of the Dallas lieutenants wanted to speak, and he said something so profound that it has just stuck with me, and I think it's applicable in every community. I think every community feels the same way. And he said, he pointed out to the church congregation and said, "Church, I hand-selected these officers because they work one of the most dangerous areas of town. And they don't oftentimes get to experience support and encouragement. They don't get to deal with good members of the community." And he said, "I really need these guys to experience your love and support this morning." And the place went crazy. And I would love for these guys to hear and sense your support this morning. So would you guys please give these guys a big round of applause? Thank you. Now, like I said, before they came up here, I had you guys all look at the gear. And I want you to look at it again. Because for everyone who participated, for everyone who financially donated, your donation is now priceless. Because these individuals are now attached to this gear. And I can't thank you enough for providing something potentially life-saving. And I know if these guys could talk, they would tell you what it means to them and their family. And it's pretty awesome to see what the community is doing. So with that, what we do is a lot of times at our presentations, we have the donors come on up. And so I know we got one of the local churches here, they donated a vest. But if I could please get all the city leaders, you guys also donated some of these kits to them. We would love for you guys to come on down, just stand with them, and we're going to take a big group picture, if you wouldn't mind. We'd love to have all of you guys, absolutely all of you guys as the leaders. Let's come support these guys. So if you'll come on up and just stand behind them. We're going to take one cool group picture. We have one chance to get it right. So this is our one opportunity. So to the media that's here, please come up, get a good picture. I'm going to be standing in the middle also, so I want you to get a good picture. Like I said, we have one chance to do this the right way. So yeah, thank you. Come on up. Come on in. Get on in there if you would.
Yeah, exactly.
If everyone else would like a picture, we're just going to take a couple quick seconds. Officers, this is not a mugshot, okay? Please smile and look at the cameras, okay? All right. All right, perfect. Who's your hand good?
One more. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Awesome. Well, ladies, before you leave, I just want to say something real quick. If you don't mind just staying there for just 2 seconds. Folks, this right here is what Shield 616 is. And this is symbolic. We obviously have the gear standing in front of these officers because we want this gear to protect these guys while they're protecting you guys. But oftentimes you hear law enforcement referred to as the thin blue line. And that's what you're seeing here. We have these individuals standing in front of these civilians because they took an oath to protect you guys, and they're going to make sure that you guys are taken care of. But also, officers and chief, we want you to know that it's also symbolic that these folks are standing behind you guys. We want you guys to know that they have your back and that they're supporting you, and it's evident with what they've done. And so, officers, if you would do me a favor and give these guys a round of applause for what they provided for you guys. All right, you guys can have your seats. I appreciate it. We're not done up here, folks. We still have Teller County to do, and so we're moving with a sense of urgency. So please help us spread the word. We got a lot more work to be done, but tonight we can celebrate because this department's done, and we're thankful for that. And I know Chief is going to sleep a little better at night. But again, thank you for everything. If you could just give us 30 seconds, we are going to get all this gear out of your way. And unless you think you need a riot line, maybe. Keep you guys safe.
I need you for a second.
Sure.
You know, it's clear to me we thanked everybody except the guy that provided the leadership for this tonight, and so I know everyone is going to stand and applaud Jake, but what you do for our community, starting with these guys up here, is just amazing, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate it. I want to give you a mayor's pin, and
well, thank you.
Thank you for everything that you've done for us.
That means a lot.
Okay,
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. It's a no-brainer. It's really easy. So, well, thank you again. If you don't mind, officers, if you could please grab your gear and just meet me down this hallway. We want to make sure you got the right size equipment. So let's grab this stuff. There's a box inside your vest if you just want to throw everything in there real quick. Thank you again to everybody for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Commander Adams.
You look at that.
Yeah.
Of all the months.
Okay, I think we can move on to agenda item number 4. We have no additions, deletions, or corrections. So we'll move on to the consent calendar, and Suzanne.
Thank you, Mayor Levy. This evening, we have 2 items on tonight's consent calendar. First is the minutes of the February 15th City Council meeting, and the second item is the January 2018 Statement of Expenditures.
Council, any questions? Okay, if not, a call for a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Carr,
Yes.
Harvey,
Yes.
Levy,
Yes.
Matthews, Sonier,
Yes.
Sawyer,
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Suzanne. Okay, we'll move on to unfinished business, and our city attorney has something for us.
Yes, Mayor and Council. Item 6A1 is an item which I would ask that you withdraw from your agenda at this time. We are not able to provide you with a contract at this point. We expect to do that at a future meeting. Item 6A2 is a housekeeping item. You communicated with Suzanne a couple weeks ago with regard to making April 1st the deadline for the applications for the city manager applicants. You also discussed that deadline of April 1st at your last council meeting. Today I'm asking you simply for a motion to ratify the choice of April 1st as the deadline for applications. That would be the motion, and I'm happy to answer any questions on that.
Carol?
Most of the sites that we've posted the announcement on do identify 1 April as date certain. A couple do not. Should we modify those? Should we go back and modify those sites that do not have that date certain?
Yes, and I think we have the opportunity to do that at the end of the 30-day time frame when the first posting was made. Thank you.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions, council? Suzanne?
Harvey,
Yes.
Levy,
Yes.
Matthews,
Yes.
Sonier,
Yes.
Sawyer,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Carr.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. Okay, Laura Pellegrino, it looks like you're in charge for a while.
Chrissy, are we network? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Levy, members of council, staff, and members of the audience. My name is Laura Pellegrino. I'm here as the city planner for the City of Woodland Park. This item is for City Council's consideration to approve ordinance number 1318. It is an ordinance to vacate a 10-foot utility and drainage easement between lots 3 and 4 of Paradise of Colorado, filing number 3, with an address of 270 and 280 Thunder Ridge Drive. This is the first hearing for City Council today on March 1st, and the recommendation will also be for the public hearing on this item on March 15, 2018. I have here in parentheses QJ, which means quasi-judicial, but I have been informed by our attorney that this item does not need to be QJ, so it is a legislative item. But we'll continue with the format in the way it is right now. All right, so this is a brief site map showing the location of the item in question, and it occurs at 270 and 280 Thunder Ridge Drive, which is here on the east end of the city, and this is Thunder Ridge Drive. This is an aerial photo showing a close-up of the site. This is lot 270 to the south and 280 to the north. It is 2 lots that we're looking at for consideration to vacate the easement between these 2 lots. This is a Google Earth image that shows a little bit more clearly some of the construction that has occurred in this area. So, for instance, you're seeing some of the show homes that were in the parade of homes in recent years in this area. These homes have been constructed to the north and to the south of both of these vacant lots currently in question. The applicant does intend to not only vacate the easement, but also to vacate the property line to combine these 2 lots into 1 lot so that he can build 1 larger home. This is an exhibit that will be attached to the ordinance, and what it shows in hatching is the easement, 5 feet on either side of the existing property line, and this is what is to be vacated. So staff does recommend that council move to approve ordinance 1318 for an easement vacation on first reading tonight, and that council schedule the public hearing for ordinance number 1318 for March 15, 2018. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Laura. Council, questions were on initial posting only tonight. If there are no questions, I'll call for a motion to consider ordinance 1318 on initial posting. Thank you. Do we have a second? Thank you, Val. Suzanne?
Levy?
Yes?
Matthews?
Yes.
Saunier?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Schaefer?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Suzanne. Okay, Laura, number 7B.
Thank you, Mayor Levy. This is an application to approve ordinance 1319, which includes a repeal of ordinance 1074. And it's regarding the access and utility and drainage easement through city property through the city water tank site on the west end of the city at the end of Midland Avenue. And it is for the benefit of the current owners of Lot 6, Block 1, Highland Hills Edition Number 1, with an address of 1339 West Midland Avenue. And concurrent with this, the next item on the agenda is to approve ordinance 1320. 1320 deals with accepting a quitclaim deed for a 0.029 acre tract of land known as the Cowitz remaining tract. Again, we're here for first reading on these ordinances, and we are looking to schedule the public hearing on March 15th. Again, as before, staff was under the impression these were quasi-judicial items, but we have since learned that the ordinance to repeal an easement is a legislative item, and actually an ordinance to approve, or an action to approve a quitclaim deed is actually an administrative item. So those are not QJ items as originally specified in the agenda. This is a brief site map showing the location of the city water tank here on the far west end of the city. Also shows the location of 1339 Midland Avenue to the south of it. These are the 2 properties in question for this item. 1339 is the lot that will receive the benefit of the easement for access, drainage, and utilities. And the easement occurs on the the access road that goes up to the city property's water tank, the city water tank. So this is an overview of an aerial map showing the same thing. The rectangle in yellow is the residence that's located at 1339 Midland Avenue. And you can see a small circle up here. That is the city water tank on this aerial. And this shows you Midland Avenue coming here to the west. And then it turns into a gravel road and goes up into the water tank site. And this is where the easement will go through city property, turn around, come back, and provide access to 1339. So here is a better picture, a little bit more, a little bit larger. And it shows Midland Avenue ending right about here. The access then turns to gravel and goes through city property, which is this piece right here known as the Holland Track, and this piece right here known as the Cowitz Track. Snakes up, turns around, and this is where it becomes a private driveway for this residence. And this access goes all the way up to the water tank. So that's just a brief overview of the location of the items that we are considering tonight. This is an exhibit that will go with the ordinance, and what it shows is the legal description and a sketch, a depiction of the actual tract of land owned by the city through which the easement will be granted for the benefit of the owners of Lot 6, which is this lot right here. This is the other ordinance. This is related to 1320, ordinance number 1320. Staff, when we received these properties, when we received the Cowitz Tract and the Holland Tract, we had assumed that we had also received this little triangular piece in here between the two tracts. When the applicant of Lot 6 went to sell his house, we realized that we did not own, the city did not own that piece of land, and that these two tracts, the Cowitz Tract and the Holland Tract, are not contiguous. The driveway that accesses the water tank and also accesses the residence on Lot 6 goes right through this little triangular piece. And we have contacted the owners of this triangular piece. They have offered us a quick claim, and that will make this entire parcel whole and contiguous. So ordinance 1320 is for acceptance of that quick claim. So staff does recommend to move to approve ordinance 1319, which deals with the easement, allowing for access, utilities, and drainage through city property. Approve ordinance 1320, which is the quick claim deed on that little triangular piece, and schedule a public hearing for both of these ordinances for March 15, 2018. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much, Laura. Council, let's take 7B first. And do you have any questions about the easement? If not, call for a motion to approve on initial posting.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Kenny, thank you. Suzanne?
Matthews?
Yes.
Soinier?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Schaefer?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Levy?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, and same thing on ordinance 1320 for the quick claim deed.
I have one question on that. Since it's administrative, does it have to come back on the 15th?
Still an ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Move to consider ordinance number 1320 on first posting.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. Suzanne?
Soinier?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Schaefer?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Levy?
Yes.
Matthews?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Suzanne. And thank you, Laura. Thank you very much. No public hearings tonight. We'll move on to new business. And Mr. Wiley, welcome.
Good evening. Before you tonight is the water tap management reconciliation. Very extensive spreadsheet that has spreadsheets that intertwine with it. So I'll go through that. Just first, a little bit of history and some background. In 1997, Ordinance 703 was passed. That is the the document that requires an annual review of the water tap fund and establishes tap fees for the year starting April 1st of every year. That's before you tonight. The reconciliation has been a useful tool in planning to allow for capital improvement projects, funding mechanisms, operational costs, and so on and so forth. A big picture overlook, if you will. Also, this document is reviewed by the Utilities Advisory Committee. Council has appointed two council members to that committee every year. Mr. Saunier and Mr. Schaefer are part of that as well. And this was presented to the Utilities Advisory Committee last month, and with unanimous decision recommended to move forward to City Council with a 5% increase in tap fees. What we do like about this is that this picture is, or this overlook is, it kind of balances the costs and who's paying for what. And when I say that, new development versus existing customers. And since 1997, we've been tracking the numbers with capital expenses, debt, and revenue sources with tap fees and existing customers. And I'm happy to report that it's pretty close to a 50-50 split. It's actually 40% new development, 60% existing customers. So moving on, moving to the spreadsheets. First spreadsheet that was, and these are in front of you on the dais, we printed those out. I'm just going to bring them up and kind of point out where key information is. First spreadsheet is the capital expenses. Everything above this dotted line, 2017, are actual numbers. Everything below are projections or planned capital projects. I just want to point out here, for 2017, cash-funded projects was about $103,000. So again, everything above this dotted line is actual. Everything below is what's planned for capital projects. Then the debt service spreadsheet tracks all of our debt and future debt. Again, everything above the dotted line is actual. Everything below is future. 2017 and previous, above the dotted line, you can see for the last 2 years on the column on the right, debt service is at about $60,000 for the year. This is due to, in 2015, when we paid off 85% of our debt service. Also, what I'd like to point out on this spreadsheet is you see in this second column on the right, or furthest from the right, this automatic meter read system. It's vacant. In previous years, we had planned for an upgrade of the metering system, and we were going to finance that. We were financing $2.3 million for over 15 years, and it was about $173,000. It's removed now because we have moved it up in the schedule, and we're going to pay cash for it. And instead of $174,000 a year, we're going to spend $250,000 for the next 4 years to do that, saving about $1.3 million. And the reason for that is we're doing it in-house. And we're able to use our existing meters that are in place in upgrading to a communication system with those existing meters. The reconciliation here, this large spreadsheet, I have highlighted on here some key points. And first, I just want to start off by explaining the spreadsheet. So from the left to the right, columns A through Q, basically are going from left to right. We have average taps, the amount of taps sold per year, multifamily and commercial taps, and then in total taps. Going across, we have an average tap fee broken down to the cost per tap, if you will, that our customer pays on an annual basis, and then also how much capital revenue is collected from each tap, and then also total tap fees for new taps purchased. And then all the way at the end here, we have in column M is the debt service, the spreadsheet I showed you earlier. And then next to that, to the right in column N, where you see these two red identifiers, the capital expense sheets, and I want to point out those two in red because over the next 2 years we have large expenses. The metering system, the reservoir, and a couple other improvements within the distribution system. So moving back to the left, you'll see here highlighted in orange, 46 taps were sold in 2017. Much more than the previous 8 years. And then right below that, you see 27 taps. We had budgeted 16 taps for 2018. We've already sold 9 year to date. So we are anticipating more tap sales than what we had budgeted for, but we're always conservative in our budget numbers. We don't want to over project our revenues. Also moving to the right here, you see me circling these two areas in blue. This is the average tap fee. The top number, the $8,195, is the average tap fee in 2016. It's much lower than our normal average due to the fact that we sold more multifamily taps, and multifamily pays a lower rate per unit. Right below that, the $11,209 number is the average tap fee for 2017. And just to put that in perspective, we have a tiered tap system for residential homes. The Tier 2 average tap fee is right around $12,000. We sold more Tier 1s than other tiers, therefore the lower of the average fee. Also below that, here I have highlighted in blue the same number, the $13,897. That's just indicating no tap fee increase for those 2 years. I'm anticipating that in those 2 years we can not increase taps and hold them constant. Moving to the right, highlighted in yellow, this $4.99. That's the average commodity revenue per tap. The reason why that's highlighted in yellow just below the dotted line is the increase in water and sewer rates for 2018 will be adjusted April 1st as well. Rates will go up 3.39% based on the Consumer Price Index unit. And then also, I have highlighted here, capital tap fees, the $49.51. In previous years, this value has not increased. The capital fees for a customer hadn't changed until the UAC determined last year that they needed to start be adjusted with the Consumer Price Index. They were $3.25 for the last 20 years, basically, and now they're attached to the inflation factor. I've already pointed out the two in red here, and I would like to point out in column P, right above the dotted line, the $1.1 million number. That is the positive number for the end of 2017. And then right to the right in column Q, the $3.9 million number, that's the fund balance that we are projecting before the audited results come in. And then lastly, I'd like to point out in green, in column G, the 471, we have scheduled in 2020 a rate reduction for our customers. Back in 2010, we had to increase rates 13.7% due to where the fund was performing, and we would like to try to offer some relief to our customers in 2020 as we see the fund is stable, and that's a 6.85% increase, exactly half of the 13.7% increase in 2010. Before you tonight is Resolution 825, establishing a 5% increase in water and sewer tap fees effective April 1st, 2018. I'm here to answer any questions.
Council, no?
5% seems like a lot. What did we raise last year?
5%.
The year before?
5%. We've raised it 5% since 1997 with the exceptions of years 2010, 2011, 2012, and 2013.
Can you give me an example of an average bill?
This is a 5% in tap fees. So right now a water tap fee is about $12,000. This would increase it to $12,600.
Even though we're selling more?
More taps?
Yeah, I'm seeing S, yeah.
We are, and we need to preserve our fund balance to withstand when we do not sell taps.
The trend's going up, so, okay.
The trend is going up. We try to find that balance that I had mentioned earlier. We're at 40-60% split, meaning existing customers are carrying 60% of the load, new development 40%. Somebody pays the bills. When I say somebody, are ratepayers or new development, and trying to find that balance is very hard. It's not an exact science, but I think we're doing pretty good with the 40-60 split.
Thank you.
Actually, I was going to ask John or Paul if they had any comments from the discussion at the utility board.
Nothing that hasn't been resolved or that HIP did not mention. The color coding helps. This is a rather complex reconciliation matrix. And as HIP said, reconciliation numbers were passed unanimously by the Utility Advisory Committee. Is there anything else you might say that would be valuable with respect to the discussions on the new reservoir?
The new reservoir is critical. It preserves our most valuable resource in maintaining a healthy community. Having local stored water for years to come is a huge benefit to our customers. It takes a little bit of the reliance off of the Homestake Pipeline that Colorado Springs owns and operates. It takes reliance off dry years. It helps us all the way around.
So Kip, please speak to how that is funded, how that would be paid for.
So that's paid for our capital fees, and that's tap fees, and then also the water capital replacement fees as part of your utility bill.
What is the status of negotiations on that? Can you discuss that tonight?
I can. We actually met with our engineer on site Tuesday to lay out the pattern for the boring for the geotech, because the Boy Scouts have allowed for us to pursue a borrow site on that site. This reservoir needs a lot of material, and there's not enough material just digging the reservoir itself, so they're allowing us to explore other areas of the property to see what's available, and then I'm anticipating a letter of intent from the Boy Scouts before we proceed much further or spend any more money exploring those options. And then once we get the letter of intent, then we can all sit down and discuss what we would like to do with the Boy Scouts.
Go ahead, Val.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. So the augmentation reservoir, I noticed almost 1.5 billion. Does that mean we're going to own the land where it is, and we get to keep that land and the reservoir?
There's a condition on the Boy Scouts property that they cannot sell the land. So we would be looking at a lease agreement or an easement to construct that.
Also, this is augmentation reservoir?
Correct. Augmentation water is about a third of our water supply, but it's the water that makes it legal for us to pump our local sources.
So currently, where does that water go, since we don't have this reservoir at this point?
So currently we store it in a reservoir that's just upstream of this location. It's a 55 acre-foot reservoir. The new reservoir is proposed to be 350 acre-feet. The 55 acre-foot reservoir is fed through the Homestake Pipeline, which we pay Colorado Springs Utilities to convey it to us, which comes from three reservoirs. It comes from Lake Henry and Lake Meredith and Twin Lakes Reservoir. So we move water from different locations, Lake Henry and Lake Meredith, up to Twin Lakes, because that's the only way we can get water through the Homestake Pipeline to us.
Kip, Councilman Carr mentioned the $1.5 million that for 2018 as the cost of the reservoir. Explain what that is in that year and what the total cost is projected to be.
Total cost of the reservoir at this point is $8 million. We anticipate paying $1 million cash for it and financing the other $7 million. For the expenditure for 2018, we have $800,000 budgeted for design, and the other expenses are other projects around town, water main replacement, PRV installation, the automatic meter read system. Yes, sir.
Could you please explain the cost benefits of having a reservoir so close to us versus taking water from elsewhere?
So having a local water reservoir here means we can store more of our water here and not in Lake Henry and Lake Meredith, where we lose 60% of it to evaporation because it's out on the eastern plains where it's very dry. And then we don't have to be as reliant on other entities to do exchanges for that water. And it's here locally, and it's that much in supply here where we don't have to rely on others.
Go ahead, Noel.
One last question. We are taking the Boy Scout camp land. Are we working to give them some land through the city? How are we doing that?
That's the negotiations with council will determine what that looks like.
That's it?
You get to decide.
Okay.
Roll that out a little bit. What are some of the things that you have talked about that we could do in exchange for the long-term lease? Not that anything's been decided, but what things have been talked about?
The Boy Scouts have expressed interest and use of that reservoir. This would not be a public reservoir. This is just on private land. So this would be used for the Boy Scouts for canoeing, doing their trainings. Not really swimming. It's going to be pretty cold water. Fishing, just that kind of use. Non-motorized boats. Those types of things. They've expressed that. They've also expressed an interest in a water system for their own up there. They don't have potable water, so when they have a lot of campers, they need to supply them with water, obviously. So water system and even money.
Oh, really? So we're not taking up the full land. We're just taking up a portion of it.
No, the Boy Scout property is, I think it's, I don't remember, I think it's around 400 acres. The amount of acres for this reservoir is about 14.
Oh, okay. Then I think it'll work out.
Kip, has the Boy Scout group expressed any downside of having the reservoir there?
No, it's interesting you ask that because it's their board, their executive board is made up of a lot of volunteers, and they all have the best interest of the Boy Scouts in mind. So some want different things. You know, some of the executive board works there, some of them don't. So the needs of the Boy Scouts, I think how they're approaching it is what needs do they want to fulfill the most? Do they want to improve the camp itself or another camp?
Council, anything else? Kip, appreciate it. Great presentation. And Council, we're looking for a motion to approve Resolution 825.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Suzanne?
Sawyer?
Yes.
Schaefer?
Yes.
Carr?
My bad.
Carr?
I thought there was public comment.
There is. Does anyone, I'm sorry, Suzanne.
That's okay.
Excuse me. We are in public comment. If anybody would like to come to the podium and express an opinion on Resolution 825. Thank you. My bad, Suzanne. Let's start again.
Okay. Sawyer?
Yes.
Schaefer?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Levy?
Yes.
Matthews?
Yes.
Saunier?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kip. Okay, we're going to move on to public comment on items not on the agenda. And we're going to start with Scott Davis. And on Scott's way up here, I'm going to ask everybody, please, please, please be respectful of this process. Speaking from your seat is not appropriate.
I'm sorry.
I appreciate it.
And I'm wearing your mayor's pin, so thank you for that. And I'm sorry.
It's our mayor's pin, it's not my mayor's pin.
You gave it to me. Scott Davis, 8250 Emporia Cascade. I apologize for speaking out of line, but congratulations on doing some good work, Kit. You're very well prepared in you do your job very effectively. Thank you for that. Sometimes we get a little emotional out here. Excuse me. Regarding the statements of Mayor Pro Tem Harvey on February 15th, 2018, when a citizen or business owner presents a statement prepared by their attorney, this is not the time to make light by joking about the business owner's ability to pay for the sidewalk to nowhere. So when somebody comes up with that, please don't joke about that. It's very serious, regardless of your relationship. Regarding Mr. Buttery's comment saying that Sally being the decision maker on the same meeting on February 15th, the statement I said was that planning in those kinds of things is a waste of resources and money. Planning is the Planning and Building Department, the Planning Commission, and Council. I have been made aware of multiple project developers being told by planning that the project is not what we are looking for. Unfortunately, planning as a whole in Woodland Park is not very business friendly. On February 19th, 2018, at 5 p.m., mayoral candidate Carr had a meeting at the historic Ute Inn. Participants included Councilman Schaefer and Saunier. Was this an illegal meeting with a prior public notice? I'm not sure, but sure looks that way to us. Mr. Carr also sent out a questionnaire to candidates for the City Council consisting of 21 questions. Was this appropriate for a sitting council member to ask these questions of candidates? I don't know if that was, but it seems very suspicious. And I wonder who helped him write that. Lastly, after the February 15, 2018 City Council meeting, I overheard Mr. Carr call Mr. Sawyer asshole. This is rude and disrespectful and unbecoming of a representative of this fine city. Thank you very much for your time. And I apologize for speaking out of turn.
Appreciate it.
Before you leave,
Yes, sir.
I'm Mr. Saunier.
I know you are.
Thank you. Have we, because I have a comment that I'm going to make at the end when it's my time to speak. Since the council meeting last when we had this discussion about the sidewalk to nowhere, have you or I met anywhere?
No, sir.
Have we talked about any of this?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
And council, I'm going to recommend that
You'll understand at the end. Don't roll your eyes.
this,
Okay.
during public comment, we'd rather not have conversation, but we will be able to come back during council reports, as you alluded to. So
Yes.
if we could hold that, I would appreciate it. Okay, and thank you, Scott. And thanks for your apology, too. I appreciate it. Patricia Stinner. Nope. Thank you. Beth Huber.
Sorry. All right, my name's Beth Huber. I live at 2213 Valley View Drive here in Woodland Park. And I'm here tonight representing the Woodland Park School District Board of Education. I'm sitting president for that. Mayor, council, and city staff. These are unprecedented and difficult days for schools and communities across the nation. Certainly all of you are aware of the threat to the safety of our students and staff that was discovered in a Woodland Park High School bathroom stall last Friday, naming a specific date of February 28, 2018. What you may not be aware of is the continuing support provided by our Woodland Park Police Department that emulates what great towns are about. Woodland Park Police provided immediate response to all crisis events throughout the district, as well as guidance for any criminal activity which may take place on school grounds. In direct relation to national dialogue, as a result of the tragic shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, our police department responded to and quickly addressed a social media threat a few days prior to the school shooting. Additionally, the second morning following the shooting in Florida, someone pulled a fire alarm at Woodland Park High School. Woodland Park Police Department responded in force, providing security for the students and staff outside the building, as well as clearing the school prior to allowing them to return to the building. Since a fire alarm was part of the tragedy in Florida, you can imagine that this heightened the feelings of angst and vulnerability across our school community, including the parents. Our police department's immediate response helped to calm the frayed nerves of students and staff as they waited for the all clear outside the buildings. Tonight, I want to express deep gratitude from the Board of Education for our law enforcement community. With every event, their deep concern for the safety of our students has been observed. We have benefited from the increased presence in our schools, assistance with investigations, and a promise to continue to work with our need for increased security. Chief Miles DeYoung has represented our city extremely well. He has carefully measured his words in meetings and provided all support requested by the district. As we have talked with superintendent candidates, we have bragged about the city of Woodland Park and Teller County. We have recounted the multiple working relationships with pride and joy. Never have we been so grateful that our district office is in a city that cares for all citizens, even those that cannot yet vote, our children. The Board of Education is resolved to work with Woodland Park School District Director of Safety and Security, the Woodland Park Police Department, and the Teller County Sheriff's Office to continue to enhance our district's security. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council, for your support. That's all I have.
Beth, thanks very much. I'm going to pass this to Miles in a minute, but to your credit too, and hopefully everybody knows, the administration staff at the high school during that fire alarm incident were outstanding. And I know a lot of that came from Miles and working close together, and it's just another great example of how great we can be, right, when we work together. So, Miles, if you could, this might be appropriate time. Tell us how things are progressing and where we're headed.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to be very brief. Because this involves a school and a school full of juveniles, we keep these cases very close-lipped. I can tell you, one of the comments that came out is people were concerned about there being a tangible threat to the school or to the students. You know, when you look up the word tangible, it goes back to, is it believable? You know, at the time that we took this case, we absolutely believed that this was a tangible threat and that we took it very seriously. It was scheduled for February 28th. Following the investigation as it's evolved and speaking closely with the board members as well as the superintendent, the decision came to close the school just to be on the safe side, which I absolutely believe was the right decision. Today the school is also closed. It allowed us to bring multiple canines through the building. We were at the military collaborative meeting this morning. We had over 40 canine handlers offering their assistance to help us out, and so the Air Force did provide us with 5 canines. They went through the school. We are also engaging a federal agency to assist us with this investigation. At this time, we do not have anybody in custody. We do have a number of tips, and we are tracking down these tips as they come in as quick as we can. We've already interviewed probably close to 40 kids at this point, and so it's not going to be for lack of trying. and we're going to do everything we can to try to find who's responsible for this. Threats like this are few and far between. I've got over 2 decades of law enforcement. This is the first time I've shut a school down based on a threat. I believe it's the right thing to do. I'm not willing to take chances and second-guess myself on this decision should it come forward again. So, again, we are vigorously investigating this case. We do not have any additional information that I can release beyond the press release. And I just want to thank the school district and everybody involved for their cooperation and understanding, as well as the parents that have been working with us behind the scenes.
And kids are back in school tomorrow? Yes,
sir. Kids will be back to school. We want to see people back and returning to a sense of normalcy. So,
great job.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Tanner Coy. Tanner, you signed up twice here, so I'm going to let you have the floor. Both, I don't know if you got more than one item.
Can I sign up for some more?
Please do.
You know, I think I'll stay limited to just a couple topics tonight. Thank you, Tanner Coy, 240 East Highway 24. Thanks for hearing me tonight. After last week's council reports, I feel it necessary to confess to you that I had asked Mr. Carr and Mr. Sawyer as well to please make sure that the council remains equally open to private sector professionals applying for the city manager job as they are to career government employees who might also apply. I did this because it's my opinion, shared by many of my peers, that a person whose career experience is from the tax generation side of our economy might bring great potential value to local city government. When making this request, I cited our development authority as an example of a vastly improved organization now that the leadership resides with the business people who by statute must comprise its board of directors. My request was honored by Mr. Carr. I'm sure he meant no harm in doing so. He was carrying out the will of the people, and for that I am very grateful. I would encourage you to reevaluate your decision not to accept applicants from Indeed.com. On that note, I may have missed it, but I didn't see anything in the public record that indicated this council had indeed made a decision to limit the search for a city manager by choosing not to use one of the most widely used job sites on earth. Again, I may have missed it. If I did, I apologize. If it was actually made by the council, can the record please reflect when and how it was reached and how each of you voted? Lastly, I would also ask that you consider setting a new course for Woodland Park governance for 2018 through 2020 years and perhaps beyond. As I sense you may or may not be fully informed, this city's property tax mill levy is among the highest in the state of Colorado. So is our sales tax. Woodland Park is one of the highest taxed cities in the state of Colorado. It is a liberal tax and spend disposition of this council and the city administration that chooses to maintain a painfully high tax rate year after year. This is relevant to the city manager search because in order to return our city to more proper balances of taxation, which would include consideration of numerous other taxing authorities, such as the school district, fire district, and ambulance district, the city of Woodland Park will need to be postured for a significant reduction in its mill rate. This can only be accomplished by someone ready, willing, and able to make difficult budgetary decisions and carry out direction that will be uncomfortable at first, but very nourishing to the great community that we love. Thank you for your consideration. Second,
Tanner, usually we ask for presentations prior to council.
Well, I apologize. This will be quick. So we have concluded the 2018 Moose is Loose sales event in Woodland Park, and I would like to share with you just a few of the highlights. As you can see, this was a very fun community event, sponsored by businesses, for businesses, and the community at large. This event seeks to increase consumer traffic in downtown Woodland Park and around the city in the month of February, which appears traditionally as the slowest month of the year. During this event, which ran this year from February 10th through February 25th, hundreds of people came to Woodland Park to visit, to shop, to spend their time, their money, and interact with each other in our great community. One of the mechanisms that we employ during this campaign is the Moose Pass. The Moose Pass is used to motivate consumers to visit numerous businesses. Leave that one? Zoom in. By collecting stamps from individual businesses, after collecting 5, consumers can drop this off at Tweets to be entered into a drawing for $500 shopping spree good at all participating businesses. Those dollars we refer to as Moose Bucks. On this Moose Pass, we do ask for some customer feedback. One of the questions asked is, what did you like best about this year's event? I would like to share with you a few of the answers. Enjoyed it all. Went to many of the businesses. All seemed very happy to have us there. The excitement around town with the extra people out and about. I visited businesses I had not been in, parenthesis, the Aquatic Center, parenthesis, which is somewhere in here, and will be purchasing a membership. Great vendors, friendly people, good deals. I'm going to leave that one up for a moment. The people in the community. I enjoyed the moose and the children who love him. It's a great way to learn about local businesses in the area. Friendly store owners and employees. The moose. Nice to get out. Friendly people. Visiting businesses I'd never seen before. Specials, it's just fun to shop in town. Friendly shop owners. The addition of Colorado Gear Lab. I am new here, so it was good to get to know different businesses around town. Thank you. Love the sales around town and great reason to visit stores I'd never have before. Going around town and visiting small businesses. All the friendly people I met, seeing stores I'd never been in. More businesses involved, great specials from many stores. It's fabulous to showcase businesses as well as other shopping venues in Woodland Park. Great event for February. Getting to see the different shops and the library. I'm posting all the fun pics on Facebook and commenting. All the different stores. Didn't realize we had so many different stores. First time in the area, so we were introduced to a lot of businesses. Visiting the businesses, sales at all the stores, awesome restaurant, Carmen Tapas, friendly shop owners. I think you get the message. This is one of my favorite events of the year. It's a way to bring our community together to celebrate being in Woodland Park in February, which is kind of hard to celebrate, but we do it. And it brings people out, and it builds culture here in this community. I love it. Apparently many others do too. I have hundreds of these guys, and if you ever want to read through them, it's heartwarming. It'll make you feel real good about what we do here. And you're welcome to anytime. Just let me know.
Tanner?
Yes, sir.
How did I wind up with 10 chippies?
Your wife likes chippies. What can I say?
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Darwin Nacarado.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay, we will move on to mayor's reports, and I'm going to start this evening by reading this invitation. Habitat for Humanity of Teller County is proud to announce the 2-year completion of the Clock Tower condos with 9 new affordable housing units in Woodland Park, converted from the former Loft House Motel. Park State Bank and Trust is hosting a celebration of this achievement on Friday, March 9th. That's a week from tomorrow at the Shiny Mountain Golf Course from 6 to 7:30. Cocktails and heavy hors d'oeuvres will be served. Because of the tremendous support received for this project from start to finish, Habitat would like to invite all city staff and all council members, along with their spouses, to attend. RSVP by Monday to vince@tellerhabitat.org. Does this also include the community? It does. Okay. Thanks, Jamie. You know, we've said it a lot. We haven't said it enough. What a great project. You provided such great leadership. That corner looks 1,000 times better than it ever has. And that's the least of it. The best of it is you've provided real affordable housing for people in our community that really need it. And so, job well done, a need that we've needed to fill for a long time. And so, continue the great work. Just can't say enough about that project. I know, as usual, it might have taken a little longer than you thought, and there's always issues along the way, but that will be here forever. And thank you very much for the entire community. Really appreciate it. Okay, Saturday, March 10th, week from Saturday, 9 to 1, Woodland Park Winter Market at the Ute Pass Cultural Center. Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, a week from Tuesday, from 6 to 9, in council chambers, we'll have the candidates forum. That's from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock. I'm sure it'll be televised. Yes. And hopefully we fill up this room. Then Friday, March 16th, from 5:30 to 9, the Chamber's annual dinner at Cheyenne Mountain Resort, and call Deb at 687-9885 to RSVP. Council, that's all I've got. Carol? Val?
Yeah, I was going to mention the clock tower also. It's a great thing for our community. I know some people going in there. It's fabulous. Thank you for, Mr. Mayor, for...
I'm sorry I didn't mean to steal your thunder.
No, that's fine. I appreciate that. I want to briefly, Mr. Davis asked some great questions, and I thought he deserves a good answer. The public meeting I had was a meet and greet as a candidate. Anybody could show up. Friends of mine showed up. It was a social event. I don't even remember ever talking to Mr. Sawyer. The press was there. So everybody who showed up was there. There was no open meeting problem because it definitely is a social gathering. The questionnaire you asked was a proxy from a group who was looking to support candidates. I passed it on. It's just like shopping for a car. You ask questions, you find out what the mileage is, you find out what wrecks it's been in. There was no intention of swaying anybody at all. So that's what happened with those things. There's a lot of surrogates doing things in campaign season, and boy, won't we be glad when this is all over. I wanted to give a Main Street report, which it goes as follows. Main Street has provided a letter of support to community builders, grant application for downtown planning funding up to 50 grand. Promoted new downtown businesses through Main Street social media. These are some things we're currently working on. Planning and coordination of a community nonprofit expo for April 14th. Where we're inviting nonprofits to contact Main Street for free registration. It's kind of a get-together and find out what nonprofits are doing and what they're, how Main Street can help. Joined the Colorado Visitors Bureau, participated in regional marketing plan development, marketing for tourism, business, and expansions. We submitted a DOLA required report. Main Street representatives also attended a Main Street conference. Main Street had over 4,000 volunteer hours in 2017, 20 of which were for community for all of the entire Main Street programs in the state of Colorado. So Main Street is going to bring forward a report here next month or two, so that'll be key to remember that they're really one of the main ones in Colorado. Development work plan for 2018 has been submitted for approval, which calls out Main Street projects, including working on the depot building. We're working on historic plaques, 4th of July celebration with Build a Generation. And lastly, again, they received a designated status, which will provide more grant opportunities for Main Street capital improvements. Again, not sure every allegation, and referring to last week, I was maintaining decorum, so I want to talk about a few things factually. I'm not sure of every allegation that Carolyn Knoll talked about, but I get the gist of it. Basically, there were allegations that I spoke and acted out of school, but that is only if one accepts their unwritten rules of decorum. I don't accept. On the city manager recruitment topic, I was specifically asked by numerous citizens to pursue what is right, including trying to prevent the majority from stacking the deck toward considering only yet another career government employee. My responsibility is to them and all my neighbors in Woodland Park, not to some set of rules made up by the liberal members to stifle debate and transparency. So, did I do all those things that they talked about? Again, I'm not sure because I didn't hear them all. They did rush and place their essays to the press, but I never got a copy of them. Nonetheless, I might have done some of those things. I certainly apologize for some things. That is my duty in representing the people rather than some other image of council to do the citizens' bidding. So you can expect more representation of the citizens in my future, and I say that truth trumps image making. I've seen Noel quietly collating all kinds of documents over there, so I know that he's prepared for your enjoyment, more data that he says will bury me tonight. I'm hoping, as our designated liaison to the DDA board, he will use his time tonight to report on the DDA and the enormous problems affecting the welfare of our city. The DDA property is part of the city. We have, rather than piling on me again, I'd like to see him perform his sworn duty as liaison. I say that it's time for that, since that duty seems to have been largely ignored for many months by our liaison. I'm aware that open records or open meetings now, that there's been some things not reported to City Council, and I would welcome our liaison to join in the liaison duties. I'm sorry to bring this to you in council reports, because my opinion of council reports is not personal attacks, but to report liaisons such as Main Street and other things, and community events, which are really the basis of this community. The community events and liaisons to those is so important. Thank you for considering my remarks tonight. I hope that now we can get back to business for our citizens.
Thank you, sir. Kenny?
Well, I would just say on behalf of Keep Woodland Park Beautiful, just to remind everybody again as we get closer to the spring, be dare aware, put that garbage away, don't put it out until the morning when the garbage truck is coming, not the night before. You'll be doing everybody a favor, your neighbors and the bears. And, if you want to see a good, high-quality bear trash can, then walk around City Park. Those are heavy duty. Those are really, really fine. Hopefully we can get some more of those around the community. But just be bear aware, please. Keep the trash from getting knocked around, and keep the bears safe so they don't have to get deported. Thank you.
Are the bears out now, Kenny?
Not yet, but they will be.
Yeah, I had one last week.
Paul?
I would like to read a thing that's been heavy on my heart, why I voted no at last council meeting on the Bad Rock Automotive. This is not contentious. It's not meant to be contentious. I've been asked by a couple of the people in Woodland Park why I voted no. I would like to read this. It's very short, and so if anybody wants a copy of what I'm going to read, I gladly give you one. It's a page and a half, large print. May I read it?
Please.
And hence my question to you. We haven't met, we haven't talked, I don't know you. Congratulations. City planner, fee in lieu of paying for a sidewalk rather than building a sidewalk. Bad Rock Automotive request for an extension to council. Conditional use permit. Mr. McCulloch, and these are the events leading to my vote. Mr. McCulloch reads a short statement from his attorney which I feel was contentious in nature. Mr. McCulloch is not answering anybody's question other than the statement my attorney approved. I submit this request under protest and with full reservations of all rights, which include but not limited to the right to contest the validity and enforceability of the related Woodland Park ordinance. Mayor, do you want to expound on that a little bit so I can understand? McCulloch, I do not speak legalese. It's the best I can do to read it. When City Council was asked what the statement meant, she replied, I will expect the extension, referring to Mr. McCulloch. I will consider to pay or not pay, come into compliance or not come into compliance, maybe even challenge the underlying validity of the ordinance. City manager, if you choose not to grant the extension, then Mr. McCulloch must come into compliance. If you grant that extension, then you are kicking the can 8 months down the road. City manager, we have given a 3-year extension to try to be business friendly as possible. City manager, I would suggest to you concerns about lawsuits or discussions with any attorneys should not be what concerns you tonight. I agree. Mayor Pro Tem, I would say in good faith, Matt has asked for an extension and the staff has found it to be a valid request. Because of this, I move to approve. Those were the facts leading up to my vote. The reason for my no vote is this, plain and simple. Ordinances are laws that are passed by lower level jurisdictions such as City Council. We have been provided with the power to enact laws through a statute and state constitution to ensure fair treatment of our citizens and help our city government run smoothly. That's simple. To grant an 8-month extension in this situation is not business friendly. Kicking the can down the road for 8 months after 3 years is not responsible planning or responsible government. A sidewalk to nowhere is more like Tammany Hall-like government building a sidewalk with no purpose or pay $5,045.18. This is why I voted no. I think we have an opportunity here to be business friendly, end this situation, and simply come to the table, shake hands, and walk away with a fair agreement. I'm not going to ask council to, I had another statement, I would like to revisit this one issue on a sidewalk that connects to no other sidewalk and is incomplete in itself and serves no purpose. This could be an opportunity to work with one of our businessmen for a better outcome. I was given some information tonight about how this all came about, this reason for sidewalks and going into a general purpose fund to be used somewhere else. Again, I don't agree with that. And I don't agree with McCulloch and his position. I feel that his position is not to build a sidewalk, to come into contentions with us, and I don't want to go down that road. By reading this statement, it may limit me in the future as to my input into this. This is my reasoning. It's been hard on my heart. I wrote it out. I don't usually do this, and I respect everybody up here. I have no problems with them. I even like Val Carr. I have no problems with Val. And my heart goes out to all the students and to the first responders, and I deeply appreciate them. And Billy Graham has passed this week. I truly love that man. I still do. I think he was great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Paul. Just one thing for the record. It's McClung, just so you have it. McClung, it's Mac McClung. Thank you. Noel?
Val is right. I do have a statement to make. Suzanne, can you pass these out to the council members, please? And then I'll give a copy to the press. I don't need one. Thank you.
You're welcome. I hope you can.
5 minutes. Thank you.
No, they're the same. They're just in different order.
Wow.
So I do have a prepared statement that I would like on the record.
Please, yeah.
An apology to council, staff, and community would have been a good start. This is not a campaign issue or speech. This is protecting the community from a misguided ideology. Transparency. The community demands this with their local government. So how is transparency achieved? Open meeting laws dictate the rules that protect the voters to make sure their local representatives are making all decisions in public meeting. This gives the citizens the opportunity to have a voice on issues. I want to be as transparent as possible to the community and make sure all issues are brought to the citizens. It is very important to me that all information is accurate and present as much and present as much detail as possible. Recently, an editorial was published in the Courier that tried to defend the indefensible. The author took no time or energy to find or review the facts that were presented. So, in the name of transparency, I would like to set the record straight on the documented inappropriate actions of Mr. Carr. In front of you is a packet outlining all the documented inappropriate actions by Mr. Carr. The actions that affect the council, the city staff, and most sadly, the community. I hope after reading these misguided statements, the community can understand the magnitude of these actions and how this type of toxic behavior is not becoming of a council member. The first thing I have there is the Courier edition calling the city staff and workers lazy. This was posted on December 14th, 2016 in the TMJ and the Courier. In a recent article, Mr. Carr running for mayor, he mentioned that he's the only one that reads the packet. January 31st, 2017 in the Courier. I also posted an email outlining the appropriate action with inappropriate action with posting the city manager job on a website that was not in consensus with the council. This email also shows the complete lack of understanding on how the board or council functions. Mr. Carr voted to get a 10% reserve for the 2018 budget. The city manager worked the budget and was able to meet the 10% reserve the council requested. Mr. Carr votes against his own request on the budget. Number 5, Mr. Carr handed out a questionnaire to the prospective candidates several weeks ago. The questions are very inappropriate and show an attempt to manipulate the future elected officials. It reads like a manifesto against the government. These statements show poor judgment. At any time did Mr. Carr stop and think that these words and actions might affect the working relationship with the council, staff, and community. Mr. Carr wants to be mayor, but shows little respect for the staff that would be working for him. Does this make sense? I was asked by several in the community why we did not try to address this between the council members and the staff. My answer is, we tried. But how do you work with a fellow council member that disrespects the council and staff in an editorial and interview? The council does go through training to make sure we are better representatives of our community. We had a workshop, which we did the Myers-Briggs, to learn each other's personalities and how to work together. Mr. Carr refused this. CML workshops in Vail on council members' responsibilities with the budget. No micromanaging on line items. Mr. Carr sat in the front of me. SURSA made a special visit to do a workshop on the roles and responsibilities of the council. Council is a big picture and no micromanaging. I will repeat my closing statement from last week.
This is a joke. This is a joke. This is a joke. Political speak.
Hey.
Something else.
Go ahead, Noel.
These type of statements do not help the community come together. They only divide us further. As a representative of this wonderful community, I want to be able to work with all my fellow council members in a positive direction that makes certain the citizens of Woodland Park have the best quality of life. Sadly, the trust has been broken and the working relationship scarred. This is not a campaign issue. This is protecting the community from a misguided ideology. As the author mentioned that I do not want debate, I would like to give Mr. Carr the opportunity to respond to these statements he made, since now he has the information in front of him.
Val?
I'll go after Mr. Schaefer, please.
Okay, that's fine. John?
Yeah, we've had some unpleasant discussions and conversations here at the last couple of meetings. And it pains me to feel that I must say something about the behavior. I'm often called the quiet one. And that's because I don't feel compelled to talk when I don't think I can add to the discussion or the conversation. I prefer to pick my places to where I want to comment. I was embarrassed and quite upset after our last meeting when the mayor and Ms. Harvey and Mr. Sawyer all three attacked my colleague, Val Carr. That in itself is not so bad, but I much prefer a collegial group here, and we can speak openly and candidly, and it doesn't have to get vitriolic. I listened to my colleague here to my left harangue Mr. Carr. I think it was unprofessional. I think it was uncalled for. I'd like to think that we as colleagues, if we really get upset with one another, we can approach that individual and try and talk through an issue. I don't know whether I'm going to vote for Val for mayor. I know I think at his heart's level, he wants to do what's right for the city. We are all ideologues of some kind, I admit it. But for Mr. Sawyer to suggest that Val ought to resign or withdraw or leave the council, I think it's just terrible. I know you don't believe me, because I just sat here and listened to your second comment.
I'm not asking him to do that. I asked him for an apology. That's all I asked.
Well, I think that's good.
You can do that.
Yeah, well, yeah. I would try to mediate that. Can I do it? I don't know. But we're all getting a little emotional because of the coming election, and we can certainly see that. I would hope, since we're also in the middle of a very important effort, and that's finding a new city manager, that we can work through some of these challenges, and I would hope that sometime over the next few months or weeks even, that we can get back to doing the city's business and do it in a more positive, pleasant way. Thank you.
John, I just got to follow up, and I take exception to what you said about me and last 2 weeks ago, because you can check the tape, and I didn't say anything. Okay. And if that's what you're holding me responsible for not saying anything, then I agree. But don't include me in that conversation unless you can show me what I said and how I said it, because I absolutely didn't say a word.
All right. I did not check.
I don't think that's fair, John.
All right. Well, I will apologize to
I
you.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Val, it's your turn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate it. One thing I want you to know is that Noel and I get along very well as far as I'm concerned. If he wins, I'll shake his hand. I win, he'll shake my hand, and we'll be fine. Right? I mean, we're collegial and have a good time going out to eat and all that kind of stuff. We're both running for mayor for different reasons. And if he wins, great. If I win, whatever. Great. I don't think he and I have a bone to pick.
You said Noel, but you meant Neil.
Neil, I'm sorry. Well, he ran last time, I think. I wanted to, there's a nice little packet here. It's all facts. The one misquoted constantly is in my interview with Pat Hill. I went back and checked the tape to make sure that she recorded me properly, and it's actually in the paper properly. I'm one of the few who studies the packets and issue. One of the few has been left out all the time. So it's kind of interesting to me. I don't really want to go through these point by point. It's not useful. I've talked about the apology a year and a half ago now on a first draft of a letter. I hope the staff accepted that a year and a half ago. I had a first draft that I put out that was even discombobulated at that. But I'm going to proceed with another statement, and I want this on the record. The city charter in section 3.07 through 3.09 specifies the only legal public meetings are open meetings with 24 plus hours notice as regular, special, or emergency meetings. Reading directly from the charter, section 3.11, meetings to be public. A, all regular, special, and emergency meetings of the council shall be open to the public, and citizens shall have an opportunity to be heard under such rules and regulations as the council may prescribe. The council may meet in executive session only under those circumstances allowable by the laws of the state of Colorado, provided, however, that no formal or legally binding action by the council for the city shall be taken at any such executive session. The city charter does not specify a legal meeting to be held via email in any section. At no meeting of the council from the date of the city manager's announced resignation was the council in discussion or agreement about having non-public email-type meetings for decisions regarding the hire of a replacement manager. According to the city charter, the mayor or two council members may call for a special meeting of city council. The charter does not allow the mayor or any other councilman to hold any other kind of council business meetings between themselves and citizens. Council business being the prerogative there. Council did not have any public meeting regarding where to advertise, which was discussed as part of the process of hiring a city manager replacement. Councilmember Saunier told Councilmember Carr on the phone that he was happy with Carr's list of private sector type solicitation sites. Councilmember Saunier's email mentioned one site he knew about Glassdoor, but it was not an acquiescence to any or all others being eliminated. 3 council members, Sawyer, Mayor Pro Tem Harvey, and Mayor Levy, had mutually agreed on a limited set of sites without equal private sector sites included. 3 council members, Saunier, Schaefer, and Carr, agreed on a set of sites, including several more private sector job sites, which included Indeed.com to have maximum coverage for candidates. Mayor Levy declared on the phone to Councilmember Carr that he had never heard from Councilmember Matthews either by phone or email, thus Councilmember Matthews had made no known preference at all, and certainly not to the rest of the council. In a February 6, 2018 at 7:38 p.m. Mountain Standard Time email, Mayor Pro Tem called the question. But since there was no public meeting was convened, this was out of order and not a legal question. Subsequent to February 6, 2018, Mayor Levy unilaterally declared to the city clerk he had a consensus, which is not correct, as the count on preferences was tied at 3-3, as I demonstrated, and ordered the city clerk to place ads on the only sites that Councilmember Sawyer, Mayor Pro Tem Harvey, and Mayor Levy had agreed. Regardless, this was illegal because council had no public meeting to discuss this issue, nor allowed public comment. Councilmember Carr disagreed as to the consensus determination and asked why the rush, meaning we could discuss at the next public council meeting in regular session. Mayor Levy contacted Councilmember Carr by phone to add one more private sector site to the 7 public sector sites, and Councilmember Carr objected but mentioned several, including managercrossing.com, Indeed.com, and ZipRecruiter.com. Neal ordered Councilmember Carr to pick one or get none. Councilmember Carr picked managercrossing.com, but objected that others should be included, including Indeed.com. Indeed.com was actually mentioned for inclusion on Friday, February 2nd at 16:12 by Suzanne, to which Councilmember Saunier agreed on February 2nd, 2018 at 1800, and it included LinkedIn and newspapers. City Manager Buttery asked for assistance with city clerk's time management difficulties in an email to council on 1/19/18. As the city clerk was posting ads, Councilmember Carr voluntarily placed the job ad in Indeed.com as a favor to the public's request to alleviate the city clerk burden and gain maximum exposure to gain a large base of candidates. Mayor Levy objected, and Councilmember Carr canceled the free city manager job ad at Indeed.com for additional candidates immediately to stop some hurt feelings felt by others who wanted to limit the number and experience range of candidates. Conclusions out of all those facts, and I've got them all right here, just like Mr. Sawyer. Mayor Levy called an illegal action of council by ordering the city clerk on an invalid grounds and invalid consensus meaning majority to perfect majority, based on an illegal email meeting that council participated in. Public apology is appropriate. Mayor Pro Tem Harvey called an illegal motion of call the question. Public apology to council is appropriate. No legal council meeting determination means Councilmember Carr was not out of order. However, I apologize to people in the city staff who were offended at the time. Thank you.
So I guess with that statement, you're saying that every applicant we need to just toss? Is that what you're saying?
I said we never decided which sites because we have no public meeting and no public disclosure. Thank you very much.
I would only say one thing, Val, and I appreciate that you put the thought into this and that you have made an apology. When we had a discussion about how we proceed with the city manager's search, the best practices of most cities is that they use a search committee. you brought to the council that perhaps that was not the most effective way, and that it would be better if we used the entire council as the search committee. I was not in favor of that, but the rest of the council was. We've had discussions since that time that we would address some of the administrative procedures of the search itself through email. We all agreed that we would use email to decide on the job description, job announcement, and then finally the sites that we would use to post the job. I've never been opposed to using Indeed.com. All I know is that at some point in time, a couple of private sector sites were selected, and I think 5 or 6 public sector sites were selected. I didn't care which ones they were. But we all agreed that we would use email as a conveyance for administrative decisions. I interpreted the city clerk's frustration as, please help me get these sites determined now. I called the question. It was a term of phrase. We were not in a public meeting, but we had all agreed that we would use email as a conveyance for administrative decisions. All that said and done, I think you've cited a very important part of the charter, but you also have admitted that on your own, you decided to obligate the city to a site that evidently no one else had selected. That is why I wrote the statement I did last week. You have apologized. You withdrew the ad that you chose to contract on your own, and I think that's the end of it.
I would love that to be the end of it. We'll move on to city manager's report.
City Attorney.
I'm sorry, city attorney.
And I do have a report because I take issue with the notion or the suggestion that the process was in any way violative of the law. It was not. It's allowed. We arranged and accommodated the desire of council to act as the search committee. Council understood what that might mean, and so moving forward, we did those exchanges of information, coming to consensus on certain items, all in a legal form, absolutely. And it just is really, as I say, I take issue with the notion or the suggestion that it was otherwise. It is important moving forward to capture those things that the state statute says do need to be captured in a public meeting. That is why you had a ratification on your agenda tonight with regard to the deadline for applications. Those other decisions, while not required to be addressed in that form, certainly can be. We can bring a motion to council at your next agenda to ratify that list. I would suggest, though, tonight, as we know that the 30-day time frame on the first posting will expire on March 7th, I would ask tonight whether or not among the council members here tonight, Indeed.com should be added. Again, that's not something that's required by state statute to be done in a public meeting, but I would ask each one of you to give that input, and if the majority is that we add Indeed.com, I believe there's a price tag price tag attached to that.
No, it's zero.
Zero. Thank you for that. Then let us go through and let's poll the council, and then we will put an agenda item on your next meeting to ratify that Indeed.com was listed. So I would suggest that, Mayor and Council, and I would certainly like to proceed with that. May I?
Please.
And so I am just going to take Sally, if you would take the notes. Mayor Levy, would you add Indeed.com?
I would.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Harvey, would you add Indeed.com?
Sure.
Thank you. Councilman Carr, would you add Indeed.com?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilman Matthews, would you add Indeed.com?
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you. Councilman Saunier, would you add Indeed.com?
Yes, and I hope this brings some closure to this issue.
Thank you. Councilman Sawyer, would you add Indeed.com?
Sure, why not?
Thank you. Councilman Schaefer, would you add
You are
Indeed.com?
limiting any private job site to Indeed.com.
Well, the question is, Mr. Councilman Schaefer, would you add Indeed.com?
How about others?
Well, the question is, would you add Indeed.com?
No.
Okay. The question has been suggested there may be others that should be added. You have 6 who voted to add Indeed.com.
I suggested 6 sites on my email to Suzanne. I did not agree that we had come to a consensus and we were going to go with the job sites we had, 6 or however many there are. Yeah.
Well, I would suggest that at Councilman Schaefer's suggestion, council revisit his 6 sites. Is that something Mayor and Council you would like to do?
Is the balance then 6 government sites and a single Indeed.com? Then it's a private.
There's already 2. This
3?
would make it 3.
Okay. What are the other 2 then?
Manager Crossing and
Okay.
Glassdoor.
Okay.
And let me just add this. I'm not going to discuss the applicants that we've received thus far, but I think we've only received 2 resumes via Manager Crossing and none from Glassdoor.
And I know that there's been a crossover to LinkedIn as well.
That was, LinkedIn does transfer resumes to Manager Crossing.
Okay.
Right.
So my point, John, is why Indeed.com doesn't cost us anything.
Yeah.
Those others do.
I will modify my position then to agreeing to Indeed.com being added.
Thank you.
Realizing now that there are 2 other private job sites.
Thank you.
Right. I think the concern was we didn't add all of them because it was almost $5,000 to have all the websites. And we thought that was way too much money, and plus we've got to re-up anyways, so you would be, if you did all the websites and you were going to re-up for 2 months, you'd be looking at $10,000 just to post on websites. So that's why we chose the ones we did.
I would suggest with this discussion, and an addition of an item on the March 15th agenda, which will be to ratify the list, that we can close this matter. Is council agreeable with that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you.
Does this then mean that Suzanne, well, that's right, she's leaving, Sunnier Climbs, Indeed.com gets added tomorrow, or do we have to wait until Suzanne comes back or some other event?
John, our current sites run through the 7th of March, at which time we would renew them in order to accommodate a date that, again, I don't recall that we agreed to, but evidently we have tonight, and that's 1 April. So we will renew those that we've established and add Indeed.com at that time.
All right.
And is that satisfactory to you, Councilman Schaefer?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good. What else do you have for us tonight?
I have nothing else, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Buttery?
Thanks, Mayor. 4 things very quickly. Just a quick election update on Suzanne's behalf. There are 5,543 registered active voters. Of those, there are 57 that fall under the UOCAVA law. Those are military folks or missionaries who are overseas. Those are going to be mailed out to them this week. Ballots have been printed and will begin being mailed out on March 12th. And lastly, she wrote down here, exciting, all our election equipment delivered today. She's a true clerk. Jane, could you give us a SPO update, please?
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council. Is that on? It isn't. A couple things that we've been working on. Ben and I met with CDOT regarding projects, funding, some of the things that we need to be paying attention to. One of the things, and you probably saw this in the newspaper, The PPACG is seeking input on the long-range transportation plan. There's a community survey, there's a survey on community needs available on their website through March 23rd. Also seeking input on the 2017 through 2022 TIP Transportation Improvement Plan, which is the more immediate projects that are funded, and seeking input on that before March 21st. The local Teller County Transportation Local Coordinating Council meeting will be on March 21st to discuss, among other things, grant opportunities for a mobility manager and a website for transit for Teller County. We're also working with the Pikes Peak Outdoor Recreation Alliance. They're holding a State of the Outdoors Expo on March 15th. And this is a group that's working with local businesses, local governments, as well as land managers, trying to make use of the outdoors more user-friendly for businesses as well as for private individuals. And then, as Councilman Carr suggested, we've submitted our Community Builders Grant, and we expect a funding decision by the end of March for a downtown strategic plan, and we'll be seeking community input and involvement in that, so stay tuned. We'll let you know.
Questions for Jane?
Thanks, Jane.
Thank you.
Excuse me, just one thing to add to what you said. On the TIP, the 2019 to the 2022, money from there is going to be used for the GAP project. For those that don't know, the GAP project is the project on 25 from Monument to Castle Rock. So you'll be seeing construction there in 2019, possibly a little bit before. They've really expedited the process in changing that from 2 to 3 lanes from Monument to Castle Rock. So you'll be fighting those traffic issues coming up next year, but it's going to be a great addition to our transportation system for sure.
And on a more local basis for transportation systems, Ben's going to give us an update on capital projects.
With regard to the capital projects, we have Park Street project. I'm working with the city attorney on putting together the invitation for bid documents so we can put that out. That consists of plans and specifications and reports. We plan to go to construction at the end of April or possibly beginning of May. We anticipate construction taking about 2 to 3 months to finish that project. With regard to the dual road project, the city attorney and I have been talking about possibly rolling that project into the Park Street project as a design bid alternative, or design build. I'm sorry, design build is a method of project delivery that could save us time and money. With regard to the pavement management plan, we've been working with the traffic engineer. We're defining the roadway network, and once we do that, they're going to get out in the field and start doing some testing, and then analyzing that data, they will produce us a 10-year plan for pavement management.
Thank you. Questions for Ben? Yes, sir.
On a design build, will that be for Park Street, South Park Street?
No, sir. Park Street has been designed so that it will be the typical standard design bid build project, but we're considering rolling that project in because of their vicinity. They're closest to each other, so we could possibly do that and save money and have a contractor and save on the mobilization money for having 2 separate projects.
For the dual road component, doing the design build.
I don't want to tell you your business, but I do believe you can save money on the South Park just by changing the design a little bit, and I don't want to go into it here, but I would gladly go into it with either one of the two or the both of you.
Yes, sir. I would like to do that.
Thank you. Sally?
Thank you. The Rocky Mountain Land Use Institute is going to occur next week. It's a conference that is held at Denver University and hosted by the law school. And we were invited, the city was invited to participate in the conference in relationship to our comprehensive plan. They had scanned all the comp plans within the state and found that our comp plan was an example of best planning practices in concert with the availability of water. So I will be speaking at that conference next week, and it was quite an honor to receive that invitation, and so we will be represented at the state because of our water resources management plan and the comprehensive plan, and keeping land use and water working together.
That's very exciting.
I'm sorry, could you tell us where and when that is again?
It's in Denver, at Denver University, and it's next Wednesday and Thursday. There's actually 2 sessions that I'm going to participate in. First is a half-day work session with the Lincoln Institute of Land Policy, and then it's a presentation to the conference attendees on Thursday morning.
Great. Could you email us that information?
I'd be happy to do
Great.
that.
Thank you very much.
That's a huge feather in our cap.
No doubt.
I'm off the mic, but when will we begin work on
Our goal is to budget for that in 2020, so in a couple years.
Is Kip going to Denver with you?
He is not.
Okay.
Other question? I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying, could be a risk mitigation.
No. Other questions for staff?
Congratulations. I have a question on the GAP project. Is it fully funded now?
You know, that's the wordy $1 million question. That's $300 million question. Yeah. It's not fully funded yet. Still working on that.
All right.
Mayor, that's all we have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have a number of letters of thank you for community investment that I'll mention the names. We'll put them in the record. I will not read them today, but want to thank all these people for their thank you. And that Bruce Caldwell from Stonehouse Ministries, Catherine Perry from Choices, Paula Levy from Daybreak, Lisa Reed from Teller Senior Coalition, Charles Schroeder for Help the Needy, and the Ute Pass Symphony Guild, and Steve Plute from the Eric Dixon Memorial. All are here, and they will all be put into the record. This seems like it's Kip's day of shining. Didn't mention that it was his 40th birthday yesterday, so I can say that now. But I got a letter that these don't come through often enough, and so I think it's important to read it. With this letter, I would hereby like to compliment 5 of your employees: Rusty Anthony, Eric Carlson, Corey Yant, Scott Schroeder, and Chris Lane with the Woodland Park Utilities Department for the outstanding emergency service they provided 25 February 2018 at 8 a.m. in freezing 14-degree weather. Within hours, they dug an 8-foot deep hole, overcoming freezing equipment problems and extreme hazards from instant icing of the area to fix a broken water main. Then they reclaimed the area to my complete satisfaction. Woodland Park is very fortunate to have such outstanding public employees. As a longtime resident, I have always been pleased with the service I receive from the Woodland Park Utilities Department. The crew's professionalism, enthusiasm, interagency, interoffice cooperation, and customer service is beyond reproach. Their commitment, knowledge, and dedication to customer service is to be acknowledged. Again, let me say Woodland Park is lucky to have these dedicated employees who perform their duties in such a conscientious and cost-effective manner. Sincerely, Ronald K. Robbins. So thanks, Mr. Robbins. Thanks to staff. Great job. It's a good way to move on.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to add to that. Yeah, absolutely. concurrent with that water break, we were conducting, in cooperation with CDOT, the repair of the sewer line work that was done on Highway 24. So while Kip was handling the emergency out on Tamarack and Regent Drive, Ben and Kip and their crews were working cooperatively with CDOT to fix that sewer main drainage conduit issue that caused our traffic problem on Highway 24 for one day. They planned for it to last 2 days, but they worked so well together that they were able to accomplish it from 9 to 6 by 6 o'clock that evening. It was done. It was a surgical repair. And again, it was that great cooperative spirit between all three entities. The relationships are so important. So thank you for that opportunity to share that.
Thank you very much. Okay, pursuant to Sub 1, Section 24-6-402, Sub 4, Sub B, CRS for a conference with the city attorney for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific questions. Section 24-6-402, Sub 4A, CRS for discussions related to the purchase, acquisition, lease, transfer, or sale of any real, personal, or other property interest. And Sub 3, 24-6-402, Sub 4, Sub E, CRS to determine positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiation, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators, all related to a personal representative request. We need a second.
That will be the motion. Thank you. And yes, there would need to be a second for that.
Please. Thank you. Sally.
Thank you. Carr?
Yes.
Harvey? Levy?
Yes.
Matthews?
Yes.
Sonier?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
And Schaefer.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here this evening. Shit. And the executive session has been concluded. Will all participants in the executive session please state their name?
Carol Harvey.
Ralph Carr. Ben Matthews. Paul Sonier. Paul Sawyer. John Schaefer.
Aaron Smith.
David Buttery.
Sally Riley.
Lance Young.
Thank you. If any person who participated in the executive session believes that any substantial discussion of any matters not included in the motion to go into the executive session occurred during the executive session, or that any improper action occurred during the executive session in violation of the open meetings law, I ask that you state your concerns now. Hearing none, this meeting's adjourned.